Welcome to my channel. My name is Tia. If you're interested in seeing how I got my nails like this using dip, keep watching. So here I'm going to be using in today's tutorial a lime green acrylic powder. I'm going to be starting off with step number one, and that is the nail prep. It's essential when you're using a nail prep to dehydrate and remove any oils that you have. This is also going to serve as a bonding agent, and you need a really good nail primer to basically bond the product. And the product for you would be the base or and the powder together. So this step is very important. I know some people like to skip this, but you definitely need a primer. Once we've done with step one, we're now moving on to step two. Step two is the base. So in this particular kit that I'm using, it's a 6-piece kit. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to polish half of my nail plate, avoiding the sides, but really just focusing on the center of the nail. And I'm going to dip my nail in at an angle and then tap off any excess. And the reason I do this is that this is going to, one, build up your apex. And then the other reason that I do this is that this is also going to strengthen your nails. If you ever have any issues with your actual nails sort of bending because they're weak, adding this small little layer of powder to your nail before you go into your full application will actually help avoid that. So I'm going to do this to the rest of my nails and I will be right back. I wanted to point out that you will also need a small brush to brush off any residual powder that you may have, and you can just sweep that right back and dust that right back into the original container. So be sure to get a soft brush, and it could be like a soft bristle brush. Anything that you may have laying around the house, or if you go to the beauty supply store or the dollar store, you just want to make sure that it's extremely soft, because you one of the mistakes I see people making is that they will get a hard brush, and what will happen is, because you haven't cured your your base with the powder together, you haven't moved on to step three. If you get a hard brush, what will happen is you'll actually brush off your product. So just make sure that brush is soft. Now that you've completed that step, let's move on to the full application. So one of the things that I always tell people in my videos is to make sure that you're applying a very thin layer of your base to your nail before you actually dip it in. And the reason for that is because one, you don't want to create any overflow. Overflow could essentially be product on your cuticle, on your side walls, even underneath your free edge of your nail plate. So always use a thin layer, and make sure that you take your time going around your cuticle, because again, you want to have a little bit of space in between your actual powder application and the actual cuticle, so that you're not fouling off skin, if that makes sense. So always go in and do apply thin layers. You can always build up, but with this type of nail system, it's hard to take away. Like, you can take away by filing, but it's going to be a tedious task. So and another tip, sometimes when you're using vibrant colors, you might have to dip 2, 3, and in some cases maybe even 4 times. And so that's another reason why you want to have a thin layer of product when you are applying the adhesive, right? So you want to make sure that it's extremely thin. And right there, I just saw a little piece of something in my powder, so I just gotta one of my little nail tools and scooped it out. But with this system, again, the powder is very, very fine. Like it's almost like translucent powder that you would set under your eyes or for your foundation. And I find that I like this type of powder better than some that are more gritty because, well, I'll show you later on, but I just wanted to point that out, that this powder is extremely fine and it's really easy to work with. So I'm gonna let you finish watching this clip and I'll be right back. I wanted to point out right here that I'm looking at my nails and I'm noticing that the middle finger didn't have the sort of vibrant color that I wanted, so I'm going back in. So as I stated earlier, sometimes when you're using bright colors, you might have to go in and dip, you know, your essential 2.5 times, but then you may see that you need another layer, so you may have to go on top of it and add like a third layer. So for me, this particular set, I would say if you have a color like this, like a neon color, do your half dip and then do 3 full dips, just so that you can have a true color payoff. Now let's move into step 3. Step 3 is the activator, and this is where you're going to apply the activator to actually cure and bond the adhesive to the powder to create that hardness that you need. I like to apply the activator to my nails at least 2 times, so on both hands. Now here, I've moved on to the fingernail file. I am a stickler for the sort of coarse, medium fingernail file. And this one, I'm using a curved file. The reason why I like to use, I can use any file, but the reason why I'm showing this particular one in this tutorial is that sometimes, especially if you're new to sort of doing your nails at home, having a curved file actually will help guide you. So when you're going through and doing the shaping aspect of your nail, where you're shaping your sides, you're getting your sort of desired free edge shape, whether it's, you know, oval, circular, oval, round, if you're doing a coffin, a stiletto, if you're doing a ballerina shape, you want to use the coarse side of the fingernail file. Now, when you start to move into the sort of shaping and the sculpting around the cuticle, which is a soft skin, you want to use the medium side because that's going to be the most gentle around that area, and it's also going to allow you to file without hurting yourself and or your client, or if you're doing like, you know, someone else's nails, you're not going to cut them. So that's why I always opt for coarse medium file. So I think the grit is 100 on one side on the medium side, and I think on the coarse side it's like 180. But this is the type of file that I tend to like to use. The other thing is when you're shaping your nail, use your thumb. I use my thumb to stabilize my finger, and I like to reinforce that with either the finger that's adjacent to the finger that I'm working on with the thumb. If you find when you're shaping and filing your nails that you have some product that has sort of flowed over, take the coarse side of the fingernail file, get underneath the product that is over that you definitely don't want, and start to file upwards. And what that will do is that will ensure that you're only getting the overflow product, the excess, and that you're not sort of cutting into the product that you actually want to remain on your nail, and it's going to give you a nice shape. So I'm going to let you sort of finish watching me shape my nails, and I will be right back. Now that we have our desired shape, I'm going to move on to the medium side of the fingernail file. And that's where I'm going to start to shape and carve out the area around my cuticle. I go in slow motions because, again, this powder this is a really good product. The powder is very fine, and it doesn't need that much manipulation. But I do want to make sure that I am shaping and just getting a nice flush application from the nail plate to the actual product, so that as my nails grow out, I don't experience a lot of lifting. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm just using the medium side of the fingernail file. Again, if you use the curved side on the outer side of the file, that will help to guide you around your cuticle area. And if need be, lay your hand flat on the surface that you're actually using your workstation, and start to sort of carve around and turn your finger underneath the fingernail file to sort of give you some more motion, so that way you won't experience that burning sensation. If you know, a lot of people, or even with if you're using an electric file, if that file stays in that spot for too long, it could heat up, and you can find that you have that heat sensitivity. So I like to sort of turn my nail with counterclockwise. So if the file is going inward, I rotate my hand outwards, and it gives me always a nice finish. So I just wanted to give you that tip. I'm going to complete this step on both sides of my both hands, and I will be right back. Now that you have your desired shape, let's move on to buffing. Now, as I stated, this is a very fine powder. And so I don't need to sort of foul over top of the nail plate. I'm just going to buff everything out. I like to use a smaller buffer to really get and concentrate on the cuticle area. So I like to use this smaller one, and then I will move on to my full buffer to buff out my nails. This powder is amazing. Like, it's really a good powder, and I've used a couple of systems, and anytime you can actually just shape your nails and buff your nails and not have to do a lot of manipulation with the fingernail file to sort of get the desired shape, I was sold on this powder. So as you can see, I'm just taking a buffer and I'm buffing my nails, just smoothing everything out, and that's literally all you have to do. So this is truly an at-home kit that you can use that will give you salon results. So again, I'm just taking a buffer, buffing out my nails, smoothing everything out before we move on to the fourth step, which would be the top coat, applying the top coat. I always apply 2 layers of the top coat when I'm doing my nails, just because I like that wet shine look versus, that a dull look. So I will let you finish watching the video. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure that you share, you like, you subscribe, and until next time, keep dipping.